Good morning, Philadelphia, and all of the ships at sea. This is your girl, Amber E, with the piping hot tea. This is indeed my tea. What is yours? Before we get started, I wanted to recite a poem. There we go. There we go. Before we get started, I wanted to recite a poem written by one of the most brilliant minds of 20th century poetry and the Harlem Renaissance icon Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I will sit at the table when company comes. No one will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll all see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. I want us to keep that in mind given the world that we live in right now, and that we are all human beings breathing oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide for the trees to inhale and exhale oxygen, so on and so forth. Because again, I think that we're forgetting that humanity is important. It's so easy to group people into groups where we don't have to look at faces and we don't have to remember names. You just see people groups based on race, color, creed, political affiliation, sexual orientation, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, I think remembering that we're all human beings on this side of time is incredibly important. But before we get into all that, I hope you all have had a wonderful week. I know for those of us who do not like the summertime, it's been blissful weather. And I hate to burst your bubble if you're in Philadelphia, it's going to be hot today. I'm so sorry. I'm right there with you. I'm not pleased about it either. It's so crisp. It was 57 degrees this morning. Oh my gosh. But you know what? Woosah. It's going to be fine. Why? Because it's not going to be in the 80s in a week and a half. It's going to be cold, and the mosquitoes are going to die, and it's going to be a great time for all of us. And for all of you who on my pages go, but Amber, you were born in the summertime. How come you don't like the summertime? Because I don't. Anyway, before I get too off topic, oh my goodness gracious. Y'all know how we do. Today's an Earl Grey day. I know that it's been an Earl Grey day on my black tea days pretty frequently, but as I've said a couple of times, I'm really kind of going for the consistency of what's familiar. And by the way, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If right now you need something that is familiar and that feels good, as long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, I say go for it. Again, I'm holding on to something that feels good and is familiar, so I have my honey in my hope cup for all the world to see. Oh, and one other thing is I decided to bring a little bit of cream to my tea today because mama know what mama need. Hey, I said what I said. Y'all know how we do. Spoons up. Round and round's a dreadful show. Back and forth is how we go. From 6 to 12 and back again. Back and forth to stay within. So I'm going to give this an extra good stir, and I hope you're doing so also. By the way, if you're watching, I would love to know what you do with your tea. I try not to drink tea on an empty stomach. Hence, again, I like to, have some kind of scone or, some kind of protein or what have you, because, again, this is, especially for my black teas, this is a lot of caffeine. I'm going to be good. This is my 1 cup for the day, but still, just make sure that when you are drinking this, you don't go too overboard, because if you're like me and you get a little antsy around too much caffeine, you like to keep things in moderation. But, oh, and it's hot. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's hot tea. Oh, my goodness. This is why it's getting warmer today. It's not something I'm looking forward to. This is the time of year when you drink the cold tea on a porch or a patio or on your front lawn, or if you're like me in summertime with the air conditioner going, I'll leave that alone. Because this is hot and it's delicious. Oh, yes. That is too delightful. I might need to shift over to my breakfast teas in the near future. Again, I talked about this a couple of months ago. when someone asked me what kind of teas are good for energy. And I'm not going to go down that route again because it's a long, drawn-out conversation. But I do love a good breakfast tea to give you a good swift kick in the pants. I don't know. I don't know if he listens to this, but I have a friend named Zach Brass. Hey, Zach Brass, who's from Boston, who will, if he's ever in Philadelphia, you'll hear him say, "Get it, Boston," before you see his face. And I went to visit him in Cambridge. I want to say it was pre-pandemic, so it's been at least 5 years. And he is the person who introduced me to Scottish breakfast tea. And of course, it's best brewed with water from the Scottish Highlands. Look, we in Philly, we ain't got no Scottish Highland water. But that said, whatever he did, to that water made that Scottish breakfast tea just sing. I've only found it once in a couple of places by a few brewers. I think Bigelow might. I don't really know. I think Bigelow might though. But bottom line is, I might need to switch over to the breakfast teas. If you are also a breakfast tea person, try a Paris breakfast, believe it or not, because Paris breakfast tea has this lovely vanilla finish that I love. It's kind of like how back in the day when we were trying to be uber fancy, we'd get the creamers that were flavored, so we don't judge. We listen, but we don't judge. We would get, a regular black tea, and then we'd get some hazelnut creamer and go in it. And I know there are some tea drinkers listening going, "Oh my gosh, this is blasphemous!" It made it pop, okay? Leave me alone. Let a tea girl do what a tea girl do. But anyway, good morning to everyone who's listening. Before we get into the tea of the neighborhood, I have a couple of announcements I wanted to make. First of all, in about 2 hours, if you are in the Germantown radio, there is going to be the Revolutionary Germantown Festival that starts at 10 and goes until 4. And it happens every year around the Germantown, Cliveden, Johnson Street area. There's going to be food. There's going to be reenactments because, again, Cliveden is one of the hubs of the Battle of Germantown that took place in 1777, I want to say. I'm right about that. But yeah, this happens once a year. You're going to see people who, dress in the, can I call it a costume? Can I do that? Well, I guess we can, with respect, I'll call it a costume, with the garb of the day, where they will do reenactments, answer questions. But one thing I really do want to point out that I love is 2 times during this festival, there's going to be a pause of silence and reverence. At 12:15, there's going to be a commemoration of those who died in the Battle of Germantown. And then at 3:45, there's going to be a remembrance of those that we have lost to gun violence since the beginning of 2025. So if you aren't just coming for the food and the fun, and there are going to be plenty of your very own Germantown food providers and business owners here in the area. Cluck and Gills is going to be there. Malani Cafe is going to be there. Frosted Fox is going to be there. If nothing else, I think there's something quite beautiful about not just reverencing the past of those who died on that soil, but those who are still dying on the soil of our city here in Philadelphia. So I wanted to point that out. Also, tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m., Denver Broncos, Philly Eagles. Bring the game home, guys. Go Birds. I said what I said. I regret nothing. But in the event that at 1 p.m. you're not watching the game, and like I said, we listen but we don't judge, or I listen and I don't judge. Keep in mind that there are other things that are happening. For example, tomorrow is at the Poetry Arts Community Trail. It also starts coincidentally at Cliveden. It starts at 1 p.m. and goes until 3. And it's going to be a community poetry walk. There's going to be some great people who are going to be there. Marquita Wrights is going to be there. Ursula Rucker is going to be there. And again, this is more of a time of community where different spoken word artists are going to give you spaces where if you just want to hear their work or ask questions about their work, so on and so forth, you can come and listen. And then that's again from 1 to 3, the community poetry walk. And then from 3 to 5, there's going to be an open poetry share and after party. This is all going to be in the 5500 block of Germantown. So there are a few flyers that are actually in the area. Look for your regular hub where there are going to be flyers, be that Uncle Bobby, so on and so forth. I'm giving a lot of shout outs to the businesses in our area because I love that Germantown this neighborhood is kind of deceptively underrated. Everyone knows about Germantown, right? We know that it's far enough from Center City where you can take the 23 bus to the regional rail. And by the way, I'm so glad we're keeping the Chestnut Hill West line for personal selfish reasons. I said what I said, I regret nothing. So again, Germantown is far away where you can take the rail, but it's close enough to the city that we're not like out there and you have to travel 2-3 hours to get to Independence Mall, for example, or Independence Hall, for example. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, Germantown has a lot popping these days, good people. And as you all know, I do like to give a shout out to someone or something or some people group every single week here on Tea with Amber E. And the shout out that I'm giving is to the Germantown Espresso Bar, who on this past Tea Tuesday, quite unfortunately closed its doors. Here in Maplewood Mall, they had their coffee shop. I want to say not long before they switched locations from Maplewood Mall to closer to Johnson Street, there was this, I don't know if it was like a closing of it or what have you, but there's a local percussionist named Karen Smith who came out with her drums and they were playing music and whatnot. And Karen saw me and she's seen me do spoken word before. And she was like, girl, you better get up there. And again, for those of you who don't know, I don't like being voluntold very much, but I also know sometimes when I need to be pushed outside of my comfort zone, it's usually, not always, but usually for a good reason. And that's how I met the owners of the Espresso Bar. And this past Tea Tuesday, actually, I decided to, I don't want to make it sound like everything died, but pay my respects, because back when I did Tea Tuesday with Amber, I would do a lot of my episodes there. It was a really safe space to voice my opinions, from in front of a screen and feel comfortable. And so this Tuesday I went and I ordered some Earl Grey, because you know how I roll. And I just kind of sat with my phone up and watched the clock tick down just to say thank you. So to Miles and to all of the owners and proprietors, and as well to the baristas who made the Espresso Bar such a special place, I send you my best wishes. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being such a poppin' part of our community. And even in talking, I know that you're not disappearing. The coffee's not going anywhere. There's still going to be pop-ups of things. Again, the aforementioned Ursula Rucker, I know she's performed with Miles a couple of times. I know that they have done some open mic nights. I don't think, this is my general way of saying, I don't think that the spirit of the Espresso Bar is going anywhere, but unfortunately the location they're in is. So I just want to say it takes a lot of courage to know when to move forward and do something different. And so I'm just sending you all thanks and well wishes and gratitude. One last thing I also want to make note of is if you are a Germantown business owner and you have been looking to talk to somebody about connecting, talk to people who are also trying to figure out, okay, what are the difference between my assets and my liabilities? I have a lot of access to capital, but I don't have mentorship. I'm going on Fiverr to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not finding the answers that I have. I wanted to bring up a wonderful event that's happening on October the 25th. It's called Real Talk, because the talk be real. And again, it's hosted by Dr. Mariette Butler. She is an amazing and very learned CEO of Over the Goal Women's Business Academy here in Philadelphia. I'm going to say that a little bit slower. I'm feeling the caffeine. Sorry about that. She is the CEO of the Over the Goal Women's Business Academy here in Germantown. Like I said, there's so much happening in this city. So again, if you're interested, it's happening on October the 25th at Braid Mill. And I'm going to shout them out too, because it's amazing what ingenuity does when we see things that look dilapidated or were once doing one thing or another, and we rebuild them to make our community better. So if you're looking to connect with other business owners, or you just want to get some questions out, how do I start a business? What is an EIN number, and why does everyone keep saying that I need one? So on and so forth. Or just knowing that there are people in your community and beyond Germantown, but in Philadelphia area, even outside of Philadelphia, who want to hear your voice. Come out to Real Talk. The tickets are $30. There is an Eventbrite link. You'll see it around the neighborhood too. Again, you can't miss it. But I just wanted to put emphasis this morning on wonderful things that are happening in our area and excellent things that are definitely lifting us up. Because again, we be in some cray times, people. And how's that for a segue? Let me just take a sip. Out of the hope. Oh, that's so delicious. Thank you, bergamot oil that comes from bergamot. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Bergamot oil. Discuss. Oh, gosh. I actually spent some time yesterday looking up the health benefits of bergamot, specifically of bergamot and Earl Grey tea. And we all know about the caffeine in black teas that are infused with something, because that's what black teas do. They're mature tea leaves. Hello. But I also looked into how the antioxidants in black teas help, how the oil itself definitely calms you down, the aromatics therein. And the reason I didn't want to start reading off stats is, first of all, that's not what we do on my show, at least not now, but also because everyone has an opinion, and even though we can go on WebMD, so on and so forth, as an educator, I like to be very astute and know what I'm talking about. Moreover, I like to vet at least 3 sources before I go talking about anything. And I'm giving a lot of shout outs this morning. Oh my goodness. Shout out to my 6th graders this week. We had a lot of fun talking about the difference between adjectives and adverbs. And for those of you who grew up in my era, did I teach my kids conjunction, junction? You bet you. Hey, I regret nothing. Did I show them the preposition song that was written in the 90s? Some of y'all may not have any idea what I'm talking about. But even though it's old school, it does not mean that it doesn't work. So I also had a chat with a few other people here in the area that I met for the first time, and they were asking me about being a teacher, and they were saying, you know, what are your kids reading? Wait a second, do your kids read? And I went, wait, what? Of course my kids read, but it always goes back to that question, what do we need to do as members of our community to make sure that our children know that there are safe spaces to learn, so on and so forth. Yes, my kids do read. Yes, our kids do read. And again, as the government continues to cut funding to so many important and necessary and life-changing parts of our society, everything from, again, this week, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting got a hit. And one thing I will say is your local PBS station needs you. And I'll leave it at that. Because if we don't keep speaking the truth from places that are non-biased and that are just speaking the truth, then we'll deal with only biased viewpoints of the truth, which will become someone's truth or just a version of the truth or a truth. So what I'm trying to say is remember that you do have a voice, and remember that it might take investments. It might take making sure that the people who are doing their best to make sure that you are getting the most up-to-date, accurate information need your support. So I know that, again, I'm not soliciting anything, but what I am saying is that knowing who your neighbors are and what they do to support you makes a difference. So continue to support those who are doing their best to make the news work. Making another pivot. Again, so many shout outs. What's up with me this morning? This week we lost Dr. Jane Goodall at the age of 91. And again, she was a rock star. Let's just call it what it is. And one of my, no, not one of, my favorite show that is still on the air is CBS Sunday Morning. My favorite show that is not on the air is the Cosby Show spinoff, A Different World. And that she did an interview with CBS Sunday Morning about a year ago. She also did one with Stephen Colbert where she where she had a glass of bourbon and she said that is how you start an interview. Again, I love her work. Again, she was a pioneer in knowing how the minds of primates work, as well as not just watching them from the outside and beginning to know them, of course, in Tanzania. And I want to say that towards the end of her life, I really do respect how she was not just talking about her research and not just talking about how she spent time with chimpanzees, but she was making the parallel between what she learned living with primates and what she was seeing in the world that we lived in. Because again, we are closer to the DNA of primates than not as human beings. And even again in her 90s, she was talking about how, you know, you see sometimes two primates who are warring against each other, and they're, you know, changing their posture, and they're sticking their chests out, and they're trying to, you know, they're trying to assert their strength. And she said in one interview, I want to say it was, if it wasn't Colbert's interview, it was with CBS Sunday Morning, but I want to say it was one of the two. She said, how many, no, it was Colbert's interview. How many of us still see things like that happening today, where we're having to stick our chests out and make sure people know who we are, and some of it might be legitimate, some of it might be bravado, but where's the humility there and the harmony? Don't get me wrong, the rules are what the rules are, but at the same time, back to what I was saying earlier, it's about remembering that respecting your fellow primate or human or living being is important. And if all we're doing is sticking our chest out and making sure that you know that I'm in charge and I can take away from you what I want to take away from you, and you can't tell me otherwise, then we're missing the people who may lose these benefits and lose their lives. Let's just call it what it is. And that's just the truth of it. How, unfortunately, with the government shutdown that's happening, there are unfortunately going to be some casualties. And that breaks my heart to think about, where it's not just about he said, she said, or we can't give these. I'm not even going to touch that verbiage, because I think it's so ignorant and asinine. I'm not going to touch it. But the bottom line is, you still are hurting people. And that in of itself is enough to say, blaming this person or that person is really going to just waste time. People's lives are in balance. People need to, you know, use their benefits to stay on dialysis 2 or 3 times a week. People need to make sure that they can feed their families. You may not agree with who or what they are, but let me tell you something. They're as human as you are. And if you were both on the same airplane, and hypothetically speaking, you're in first class, they're in coach, and it's going down by the head, nobody's citizenship or their money is going to save them, okay? So at the end of the day, I get it. There are a lot of legalities here. But the question I want to ask is, where is the humility? And looking at the bigger picture from the outside in, we may not know all the details, because again, I'm not on Capitol Hill. I'm behind a microphone in a radio station right now, but you see how these decisions being made really are hurting real people. I know we're going to be okay. I'm blithely aware of that, but my goodness gracious, to see all of this happen in real time is it can easily be unnerving, and it can easily be frightening. Continue to make phone calls, talk to your neighbors. What resources do you have that your neighbors may not have? What do they know that you don't? Make sure that you aren't a stranger to your next door neighbor. Again, we live in a generation, unfortunately, and in time where, compared to 25, 30 years ago, where you look in my neighborhood, and here I'm going to take a sip for a second, you couldn't do nothing because Miss Edna and Miss Cheryl were watching from the porch, and if you did something, when your mama got home, you would get let's just say your mother would find out. Whoops, I said what I said. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. Love your neighbor. Discuss. Sorry, I'm still in the air. I'm having too much fun. But yeah, get to know who your neighbors are. Get to know their resources. Get to know what you can do to make a difference. We have a voice. I'm going to go back to a couple of weeks ago. Billions of dollars because people said, I don't stand for this and I'm canceling subscriptions. We did that. You have more power than you realize. So I just wanted to put that out there. The last thing I wanted to talk about, albeit briefly because I had to cram a lot in a little bit, was something that kind of disturbed me this week. And again, I know that my auntie Natalie is listening and watching from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, auntie, I love you. But she and I had a chat about something that I'd seen regarding, well, the post basically said, if someone hurts me because of the color of my skin and I'm offended by it, I'm making an idol of it. And you know what? I think, again, I know we don't have a lot of time together. I know that I totally disagree with this, but I'm going to actually put a pin in it now that I think about it, because it's a lot to unpack. Because normally, I'll just give you a bit of backstory. I'll talk about it more next week. Normally, when I see posts like that, I kind of ignore, I choose to ignore them. Because again, I like human-to-human dialogue. I like safe spaces where people can talk and not hide behind screens. So normally when I see things like that, I just kind of go, I ain't got time for you. We make some butter cookies or something. Bye. But I actually did make a long response to it, and the person posted, please feel free to politely disagree. And I actually said in my post, I politely disagree. I'm just going to say for the time being, generally speaking, I do politely disagree. But now that I think on it, I can almost predict this is going to take some time to unpack. So we may have to do that over some herbal tea next week. As a matter of fact, that is what we're going to do next week. We're going to unpack that. I guess what I will say just generally is that this has got to stop. I hate to break it to y'all. Let me rephrase that. Again, I'm a wordsmith, so I'm going to say this very carefully. For those who are not pleased with what they see and have to now deal with it, I am so sorry that you are inconvenienced. I really am. This is the world that we live in. This may be the first time you've had to fight for what you believe in. It might be the first time that you've seen something that just makes you uncomfortable. I don't know what to tell you except it's time to deal with it without hurting people around you who may be different than you. Because one thing I've never understood and never will, I may disagree with you in many ways. I'll give you that. But I can't understand and won't try to understand how hurting someone or destroying someone, who they are, what they do, where they live, how they breathe, what they eat, how they speak. I just can't wrap my mind around being destructive. You don't have to like it. You can politely disagree. But bringing pain to someone, that I can't get behind. And I don't even want to waste the time or the energy. I do not even have the emotional bandwidth to try to break that down. So again, like I said, we may be able to touch that next week. In the meantime, between time, as I always say, I've got you. We've got this. We're going to be okay. Make sure that you get outside today before it gets too hot. Unless you're one of those folk who look at the sunshine and go, oh my goodness, it's in the 80s. Let's enjoy this. I'm going to let you have fun with that. Child, in about a month and a half, you're going to need your sweaters. And you're not going to be able to go away from those sweaters because it will be sweater weather. Ha, 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 ha. I said what I said. So anyway, y'all, I want to thank each of you for listening and enjoying your tea with me this morning. I know that this can be a little nerve-wracking, but here's my homework assignment to you as a lifelong educator. And it's one that I would have given my students, actually. In hindsight, I really should give it to them next week. We'll see. But here's my homework assignment to you. Connect with one person this week on purpose just to see how they're doing. Be that checking in on them or making yourself known so that if, like me, sometimes you're in your head a lot, people know how to pull you out of that space and say, what are you thinking and how can I love you? Because guess what? You do deserve the love that you may believe that you don't. You definitely deserve it. We all do. So, my dears, I hope you enjoy your tea. I hope you stay hydrated. If you're in the Germantown area or don't mind commuting to it, I hope you have some great food today. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoy the art crawl. I'm sorry, I keep calling it art crawl because that's the first Friday of the month. The poetry crawl. And of course, as I always say, go birds. Love and light to you guys. Peace.